Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guest, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunity facing SAP users today. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted to be joined today by Nicola Davidson, Head of SAP at KCA Deutag. And today's episode is the latest in our series of interviews with senior IT leaders to hear about their career highs, lows, and tips for getting ahead and the challenges they've faced throughout their career. So, welcome, Nicola. As this is another episode we're recording around Easter, it got me thinking about Lent. And with that in mind, what would you say is your biggest vice, Nicola? I think mine is sweets and crisps. I can eat bags and bags of them on an evening watching TV. So where does yours lie?
Unfortunately, it's probably expensive wine. I probably indulge a little too much in that. And yeah, that's something I definitely should think about reducing for Lent. That's for sure.
Oh, I would argue against that, to be perfectly honest. I think an expensive wine is a pleasure. I wouldn't call it a vice. No. Just keep enjoying it. Okay, thank you for that. And, again, welcome. And just to get us started, I thought we'd maybe try and go back to the beginning, so to speak. And how did you get into IT and how did you end up in the field of SAP?
Well, my degree, starting there, was a mixture of a business and electrical engineering degree. So I always wanted to have a technical element to whatever I did, but I also wanted to learn about business. And as I went through that degree, we became I had more exposure to management information systems. And so that was where sort of systems kind of came into it. And when I left uni, I went right into a business analyst role, loved it. And then I moved into a more project management role, which was hands-off. And I desperately wanted to get back into the hands-on side of IT. So I, no SAP experience at all, joined a company in Aberdeen, actually a SAP partner called Absoft. And I joined there with professional experience, but no SAP experience at all. So they put me through my training, which I'm eternally grateful for. They exposed me to SAP. So I started life actually as a SAP CRM consultant. And that was probably about, oh my goodness, it's about 12, 13 years ago.
Oh, wow. And, so how did you land your current role?
So my current role, obviously, is at KCA Deutag. I actually, from the time I was at Absoft, I did come into contact with KCA Deutag because I retrained in the SAP MM area, and I was actually a trainer. So I used to go to clients and train SAP. Around 2008, I became pregnant with my eldest child and didn't want to travel as much as I did as when I was a working SAP consultant. So an opportunity came up at KCA Deutag and I moved over there as a staff member. I went in as a SAP MM consultant and worked with the supply chain area of KCA Deutag for a number of years. I then was promoted up to a SAP functional lead, which then meant I was responsible for all the SAP functional consultants within KCA Deutag. So it meant taking responsibility for HR payroll, for plant maintenance, for FICO. And as a SAP MM consultant, that's challenging because all I know was MM. So did that for a number of years and then promoted to SAP manager, which took in a little bit more responsibility, including the BW and analytics team. And then just before lockdown, I was promoted to head of SAP. And that is now responsible for the whole SAP estate within KCA Deutag. So I really have worked from the bottom up.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well,
Thank you.
congratulations. And how big is your team?
I have a team of around 15, which comprises of a basis group, security and authorizations, functional team, and a development group. So they're primarily based in Aberdeen, but we have some remote people supporting us who are employees, and I also have some team out in Germany.
Oh, thank you. And it, if I remember rightly, KCA Deutag is a drilling engineering company, and does that bring with it any particular challenges or requirements for your use of SAP?
Absolutely. I mean, the implementation of SAP into KCA Deutag took place around 2006. At that point, KCA Deutag was a different animal than it is today. KCA Deutag
Hmm.
is now a sort of world-renowned global drilling company. We operate across the Middle East. And in Europe and obviously in the North Sea. But when SAP was first implemented, we only really had operations in the North Sea and Germany. So the template has remained the same, but our organisation hasn't. And then that's the challenges that we face at the moment, is ensuring that the SAP system continues to evolve to support our growing business.
Great. And looking towards the future, what are your plans for SAP?
I think, like everybody, we're on the holy grail of S4 S4 HANA. We're not there yet. We currently run ECC on an Azure platform, so we're already on that cloud platform. However, we're very much looking towards S4 HANA. We just recently completed the implementation of BW for HANA, which I saw as us dipping the toe in that technology. And that was a great project for us, just to get our hands on the technology. And it gives us a springboard from which to move to S4 HANA. So that's my long-term strategy for SAP within the group. We also have quite a wide range of in-house applications. So we use a mix of Fiori and in-house built applications. And I want to continue the use of that because it makes SAP more accessible to a lot of the people within our organization. The use of apps makes it easier to use, and it allows for easier adoption for people on rig side who maybe don't have the same IT skills as those in the office. So that's another strategic direction that we're looking at is the usability and getting the adoption of SAP high within the organization.
Hmm. Oh, excellent, excellent. So you've got plenty to keep you busy there for the coming years.
Absolutely. I mean, the business continues to grow each year, and there's always a new challenge.
Yeah, and talking about challenges, and you mentioned obviously where your team's based and the different locations now. And what challenges did the pandemic pose to you in your day-to-day job, and how did you overcome them?
I think technically we were still able to perform, our roles. We were still able to deliver SAP solutions to the business. However, I think the thing we all struggled with is that I'm used to having a team around me in an office where ideas can be discussed readily without having to set up a Teams call, without having to, get that. It was very fluid, very organic the way that we spoke. And I think we missed that. We were all taken away, we were all in our homes. And I'm also very much a people person. I like knocking on people's door and speaking to them face to face. And I struggled with that in the initial days of trying to work through the pandemic and everybody working remotely. And I really try to encourage an ethos of teamwork within the SAP team because I believe that's where we get the successful delivery of projects from. So it was really the thing I found challenging was being away from everyone. However, we used to have, we called it 11s, so we'd all have our tea break virtually at the same time so we could chat. And you'll start off chatting about SAP and we'll get some ideas going, and then you talk about what was on television last night. And I think that's important because we needed that team to stay cohesive and stay together. And we also did things like we'd have quizzes, and it was really about keeping that teamwork going. And also, I had to really make an effort to make sure I spoke to those people where I would usually meet them at the tea room, um, and get the information that I would never hear through an email. So it was really about making an effort to keep connected with my colleagues.
Excellent. I can certainly relate to that. It's one of the things we did with our volunteer community, because we weren't seeing them face to face at all, and we set up exactly as you called it. We set it up as a Friday 11s call where we could all get together with a
Yeah.
cup of tea, coffee, and have a chat. I think through that period it was very, very important to people to keep in touch and keep that human connection going.
Absolutely.
And when you're looking for help on SAP related matters, which areas do you turn to?
The SAP community in Aberdeen in particular is very small. We all know one another, and my network is very strong here because of the specifics that the oil and gas industry bring. It's sometimes good to turn to that network because it's close by. We use the SAP user group hugely. I have met so many people through that forum. I think it's valuable because you get the warts and all story from the user group, and people are very honest and willing to share, which I think is great. And it also takes. I always think if you go to SAP for help, there's an element of pre-sales there, which sometimes is not helpful. So yeah, I think my network and we do use the user group fully at KCA Deutag.
Excellent, thank you. And just on taking that support element a little bit further, how would you rate the level of support provided by software vendors and IT partners?
I think it varies between, and I think it varies between vendors who provide SAP support. We've had good and bad experiences. We don't have at the moment one partner who helps us. We're very self-sufficient, and we'll buy in resource where we need it. But I think it depends on the relationship as well. I think you forge with these vendors. I spoke to a colleague the other day from an organisation in Aberdeen who used a partner that I had used and had a totally different experience. So I think it's how you engage with them kind of determines the level of support and the level of expertise that you get.
Yeah, I think that's right. And just touching on that piece where you talked about the relationships you build, and I always said that you don't do business with organisations, you do it with people. And I kind of added to that recently from conversations that I've had with a lot of people. Is that you do business with people you like,
Yes.
and those relationships are of vital importance, and maintaining them is important on both sides, because it's all about relationships. And when you look at that, and obviously how you work with vendors, etc., are there any key areas for improvement that you see?
I think you've hit the nail on the head for me. I work very much on relationships, and sometimes I get frustrated when vendors throw so many people at you, when in fact, and I think that you've got no chance of engaging with a room full of people. And I do like the vendors that I'll have one point of contact, I'll get that relationship going, and then we bring in new people. I find it very pre-salesy to just be thrown at a room full of consultants. So yeah, I think that personal touch does help, and I'm seeing that more and more from the larger organisations. So, I mean, the people that we use, I have good relationships with the people that I will keep going back to, because I know they won't throw a load of consultants at me.
Yeah, very true. And just on just going back to what you said, and obviously you mentioned UK&I took an engagement in the user group. How important do you see the role of user groups and user communities?
I think it's a great organisation. I've been part of the user group for a while now. I usually attend, my background obviously supply chain, so I've attended a number of the supply chain user groups. I think they're great for networking. I think they're great to see what your peers are doing. It's good to ask questions. I miss the face-to-face ones, I have to say. I think the last one I attended was down in Clockhouse, and that was a great. We talked about S4. We talked about some of the specifics from the oil and gas industry and that, and it was good to talk to people face to face and make those connections. And you'll always find an organisation that is on a journey similar to you or that you've done. And I think the sharing of those experiences is key, and that's what makes it so valuable to us.
And I would completely agree with that. And, we're getting back into the face-to-face arena now, step by step. We're kind of living in, I suppose, a hybrid way at the moment. Some meetings are continuing online and others are having meetings face-to-face. We had our analytics symposium recently as a face-to-face event, and we're looking to build out more and more as we go forward. You seem to have quite a varied career with experience from public sector at a local authority to large IT enterprises like some Xerox. How has that varied experience given you any specific tips you can share with our listeners about managing large IT projects?
Yeah, the local authority one was an interesting one. When you move from that into the oil and gas industry, it blows your mind. You go from a very frugal organisation and thinking about spending other people's money when you're implementing IT services. When you move to the oil and gas industry, it used to be, and it's very much a change industry these days. You had a little bit more resource, let's say, to undertake those projects. However, I think in every project and the ones that have been successful, what resonates to me is a good project structure, a good understanding of the roles and responsibilities, and a good understanding of who the decision maker is. We can have the best technical people in the world on it and the best resource, but if there's no one there taking that ownership of decisions and knowing your roles and responsibilities, delivery can be slow. So I think that's what I've always found, regardless of the size of the organisation. And you don't need a cast of thousands to have a robust project structure. But I think having the right one in place, that everyone knows the roles and responsibilities with that defined decision maker, goes a long way to a project success.
Thank you. And I suppose, the reverse of some of those are the things not to do. But is there anything else in mind that organisations should avoid doing?
I think there's so many project methodologies out there. And I know, for instance, when I was at the local authority, they were very big on prints. Now, prints is so bureaucratic. I don't think you get anything done for getting the stuff set up. So I think, organisations have to be mindful that, yeah, we need change governance, we need structure, but it has to be tempered, and that we can still allow the project to run and get that deliverable. So I think there, in some instances, it's to keep an eye on the bureaucracy, I guess, around project management.
Understand that.
Hi, we're the UK and Ireland SAP user group. Did you know we're a fiercely independent not-for-profit? Did you know we're a vibrant community of over 6,500 SAP users? And did you know we help each other by sharing resources, championing education and influencing SAP's future development? Well, you do now. If you'd like to get the most from your SAP investments and be in the know, visit our website, sapusers.org/pod. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
And just a question now around, obviously, your progress and your success through, we launched our Women in SAP community last year and have a number of events running through this year and long into the future planned. Are there any tips that you would give kind of a young woman perhaps coming into the world of SAP or IT on what they should be thinking about and looking forward to progress through their career?
I think with anyone, and not just a woman, it's it's that desire to learn, to listen from your peers. Everybody that I have met through SAP, I've taken something from, whether it be good or bad. But I have really enjoyed my journey into SAP because of the people that I have surrounded. I find SAP a fascinating product. It's that interest and desire. I've never really thought about me being a woman in SAP. I've always thought about me as being part of a team. Although there have been days when I've sat in a meeting and thought, gosh, I'm the only woman here. But it's a fleeting thought, and then it moves on. And I think that's important. Recognise you are a woman. You don't have to change that. I don't think women should. I think women bring a different quality to project environments. They bring a different thought process, which, can sometimes help in a team dynamic. So I think it's being mindful of who you are, stay true to who you are. But I just think you're like anybody else. It's a want and a thirst to learn and a thirst to actually listen to those around you.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And, as we come towards a close now, and, if you looked into your crystal ball, what do you think might be the biggest change we're going to see in IT in the next 5 years?
That's a difficult one, because who could have believed 2 years ago the change that we've gone through with the use of Teams and Zoom and products like this. I think within my industry we're pressed on cost, as I guess through many industries. The pandemic has given us cost restraints, so it feels that there's going to be an increase in looking in things like RPA for automation of processes. I think the challenge there is that businesses think that digitalization equals cost savings, and they do. However, we still need those people to make sure the digitalization happens. So it's keeping that balance, as well as and with specifically thinking about SAP in the next 5 years. I see and hear about all these companies on their journey to S4. The challenge is the resource. Do we have the skill sets available to get there? And I think that's going to be interesting, looking ahead to see how we navigate that journey.
Thank you very much, Nicola. And yes, the skills is something I come across very, very regularly, and it's what kind of prompted us to write a paper on it, I think at the end of 2020, and then that moved towards kind of the cost of change as well, and how you factor that into change and your journey towards S4HANA, etc. It is a complex field, and there are, like you say, lots of resources and support out there to help you through it, and getting and ensuring we've got enough skills in the market is vital to get everybody through to S4 safely.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we certainly don't want to turn into another year 2K scenario.
Yes, and unfortunately I still remember year 2K, so.
Nicola, thank you so much for your
welcome.
time and insights. Really, really do appreciate it. I hope if there's something you're taking away from this as well, it's a good thing and not a bad thing, and you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And to our listeners, thank you very much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss one of our future senior IT leader interviews. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.